Winter has a tight grip on me lately. And I'm not talking about the falling snow as I make a hearty Swiss venison stew from a cookbook from the 18th century, in which the deer meat is marinated in a marinade that was originally meant for bear meat, which was quite popular in the Alps. No, when I say that winter has a grip on me, I'm not talking about the dipping temperatures that keep even the chickens inside the coop. Rather, I'm talking about the season, known as the winter of life. That moment when you realize that your life is changing, that the things you used to love to do, you can no longer do them. Or perhaps a dream that you had, you have to finally let go of. Whatever it might be, the winter of life means that there are changes and that you have to adapt to them. But it doesn't mean that there isn't any hope. Sometimes we find ourselves in unexpected places, like a rare goose, which was recently spotted in the area. I didn't catch a glimpse of it, but I do hope it returns safely to where it belongs, in the United Kingdom. Winter is a good time to get to some projects that I have at hand, like making 18th century mitts to keep my hands warm. In Native American tradition, winter was a time of storytelling, and you couldn't tell the stories until there was snow on the ground. I find it to be a perfect season to revisit some friends that sit on my bookshelf. I'm particularly fond of Laura Ingalls Wilder, author of the Little House on the Prairie books. But did you know that her very first book, Little House in the Big Woods, was not published until Laura Ingalls Wilder was in the winter of her life? That book was published when she was 65 years old. I take comfort in hearing stories like that, for I feel sometimes my life is going too fast and I'm wasting these precious years not getting to the big, scary dreams that I still hold close to my heart. So while winter might have a grip on me, I'm going to embrace it. And I'm especially going to embrace the winter of life and not fear the change, but to see winter as an opportunity to rest in order to be renewed, to have fun. Perhaps instead of shoveling the snow from the steps for my husband, I'll leave a heart for him. Of course, he probably would have preferred if I swept the snow off instead. The winter of life can be a beautiful thing, for as Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote in her book, The Long Winter, it was so wonderful to be there, safe at home, sheltered from the winds and the cold. Laura thought that this must be a little like heaven, where the weary are at rest. My friends, welcome to Old Stonewell Farm. It is wonderful to have you here with me. Well, just come with me as I make my way back into the kitchen. It's been a busy day, and Fritz has been having an early case of cabin fever. He's been going in and out of the house constantly. He's a Bernese Mountain Dog, so he loves these cold temperatures, and he just wants to sit outside all day, but he wants the kitchen door open. And there he is at the door right now, wanting to come in. How much do you want to bet that I will not be allowed to close the door? Come. This is what I go through. You gonna come in? Yeah? You gonna come in? Okay. Can I close the door? Well, surprise, surprise, he let me close the door. Now he wants a treat. Here you go. Oh, my friends, I hope your January is going better than mine. I just can't seem to get organized here at the farm. I really find myself like taking something out and then just leaving it out rather than putting it back like I used to. And I don't know. This is the new me. I want to return the new me for the old me. Again, I hope your January is going way better than mine, and I hope that you're filling up your joy jars. I will admit, I'm very glad that you were sending me your joys to fill up my jar, because I have been having a hard time finding the joys all around me. Yes, the birds are singing a little bit earlier this winter. Usually the songs begin in February. And for that, I'm joyful. And the sun, even though the temperatures are cold, the sun does have some strength to it, and I am joyful about that. But even with those joys that are all around me, I have been fighting to climb out of a hole that I am in. Not really a hole, but more of a contemplative state. I've always loved winter. January never really bothered me because it meant that there would be lots of ice skating at night with my dad. It was a time that you prayed that there would be a snowstorm so you could stay home from school the next day, and that meant cups of hot cocoa with marshmallows and building snow forts. If there was a snowstorm, what my parents would do, they would pile up all the snow to become a big mountain, and then they would pack it down, and we were able to ride our little sleds down that mountain. And we didn't have a big yard at all. It was a small yard, but they would just pile up the snow, and that was enough that we had a mountain to ski down or to sled down. But this January, I've been really thinking about the winter of my life. I've come to realize that I have left the autumn of my life, and I am either in the winter or quickly approaching the winter of my life. I'm feeling my age lately, and I know some of you are going to chuckle and then send me comments like, honey, you do not know what age is. Just wait until. Do you want another cookie? So I feel kind of funny that I'm sharing with you that I feel that I'm in the winter of my life. But it really hit me the other day. Some of you know that I've always wanted to build a little chapel on top of the hill behind our pasture here, and invite all of you to come and join me in this little chapel for a time of quiet prayer, perhaps another time for us to gather beyond Old Stonewell Farm and go to the Old Stonewell Chapel. Now, while it's been in my heart for many years to do such a project, it's really been weighing on me that this is the time to do it. How many cookies have you had? Yes, he's having another cookie. So I've been praying on it. The other day when I went to come back from my walk, he's eating so many cookies. Do you want another cookie? Is that your problem? Don't tell my vet how many cookies I'm feeding him. You want to sit for me? You want to sit? No? Okay. Yes, I'm not a good dog trainer. So when I came back from my walk, I tried to go up the hill to where I envisioned this chapel to be. And I noticed that my knee was really hurting as I was trying to walk up that steep hill. No more cookies. And by the time I did get up there, I felt kind of out of sorts. I didn't feel like my old self. I was feeling some aches and pains. And I noticed too that the climb up that hill can be a little difficult in the snow. It's a little slick and it gets steep at some parts. So I made my way back down, and I went back to the part of the farm where I thought would be a good place for maybe a little writer's retreat. And it's a little bit of a secluded area just right off of the trail and a ways back from the house. You're not getting any more cookies. Thought, well, plan B, right? You always have to have a plan B in life. And I've always joked that I'm not going to worry until I get to Z and I have to start all over again. But there's always a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, meaning never give up. There's always an option. There's always an opportunity. There's always another way to go about whatever project you want to get accomplished. So I went to my plan B of my prayer chapel, and it's a good idea. I like it. Ideally, I would love to have the chapel on top of that big hill, as it has beautiful views of the Green Mountains. For the first time in my life, I began thinking about accessibility. How easy is it for me to get up to that hill, to my prayer chapel? How easy would it be for other people that I love to join me in that prayer chapel? And I realized that I had to be sensible and not build something that might be difficult to walk to, and rather choose a place, a location that if the day came where I needed to perhaps drive a little cart to it, I would be able to still go to my prayer chapel. While that idea for a new location for the prayer chapel makes complete sense, it made me realize that I'm entering into the winter of my life, or at least I'm now thinking about the winter of my life and preparing for it. And as I began to walk in the snow and trying to measure it and map it out with my feet in a square, and kind of okay, here's the door when you enter into it, and off to the side, I want a little baptismal font. You could dip your hand in the water. And of course, I do want a lot of windows. I want a window on this side, a window on that side, but on the far side that faces all the trees, I want a couple of windows, so that would be sort of the altar, where you would just kind of focus your prayer time. So you have the image, so that you have all the trees. I know that this is going to be a big project, and I'm still not 100% confident that I will be able to pull it off. There's the cost of building something, which is outrageous, and I don't really have the time or the skills myself to try to do it myself. But I know that that tug to create such a prayer chapel, it feels different this year. It feels like this is a year to do it. So I've been exploring, all these pre-made sheds and whatnot, and how you can kind of tweak them, or at least use it as the base of what you had envisioned, and build on that. Completely out of my skill set. It's going to be very interesting. So when I was out there envisioning this prayer chapel and feeling a little down, that I realized the sensible thing is to change location from on top of the hill to a more accessible place. I then came to realize that being in the winter of life isn't a bad thing at all. If anything, it is wonderful and glorious. The winter of life is a time of rest. It's also a time of renewal. For God is never done with us. There's always a spring waiting to reawaken us. The winter of life might be a slower time, but it doesn't mean that our time is over, or our time is coming to an end. Not at all. Winter is a season in which God is asking all of creation to rest and get ready for the next great big thing. And it's the same for us as well. That in our winter times, we are being asked to slow down, to rest, to perhaps rethink a location of a prayer chapel to be more in line with where you are right now in life. And that shouldn't be something to shed a tear over. It just simply means you're in a different place in life, that God is still at work holding you and leading you on, but the plan changed a little bit. In fact, the new plan is often way better than the old plan. So yes, I changed the location of my prayer chapel. So when the time comes, I know that it's more accessible for me, and no matter what happens in my life, no matter where I might be, whatever condition I might be, my physical body, I know that I will still have the opportunity to go there and to pray. Now, I could pray anywhere, I know that, but there's something magical about a prayer chapel that I've always held in my heart ever since I was a little girl. And we had a trip to Switzerland, and I shared this with many of you before. But there in the Alps was a little chapel that I found, and I remember just entering into it and being so drawn to the silence. And I've always joked with my father that you have to build me a play chapel. And now, as I feel that I'm leaving the autumn of my life and I'm really seeing the winter of my life fast approaching, now's the time to do the prayer chapel. For it's never too late to revisit an old dream. It's never too late to live fully. So after the realization that it would be a good idea to move the prayer chapel from off the hill to down the hill, and after I allowed myself a little bit of time to wallow a bit about the winter of life, I then decided to embrace it, and I now see it through a different lens. Last night we had a fresh blanket of snow, and when I went out there this morning to take care of the chickens, I looked at how pristine it was. And as the sun was starting to break through, it just looked like hundreds of twinkling stars on the ground, just shining and sparkling. And it was beautiful. And it was then that I thought, the winter of life is indeed beautiful. For that fresh blanket of snow, what it's really doing to the ground below is keeping it warm, getting it ready for the springtime. That fresh blanket of snow is God's way of tucking us in nice and warm and saying to us, my child, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to shed a tear if you can no longer do the things that you want to do. But that doesn't mean there isn't anything else for you to do. There's always something for you. For God is always using us. And so when I saw that fresh blanket of snow, I thought about that. That it's just God's way of saying, I am tucking you in. I'm tucking in all your dreams. I'm tucking in all of the worries. I'm just tucking it all in. And I want you to curl up underneath its warmth and know that this too will pass. Rest, for tomorrow will come, and the sun will get brighter and warmer, and there will be incredible God possibilities that you never, ever could imagine waiting for you to kind of sprout up from that snow. The winter of life is a wonderful time, for it's a time that we can re-envision our dreams, knowing that the new plan we have can be way better than the old plan. That if I have to move a prayer chapel off of that hill to a better place for me as I get older, so be it. It doesn't mean my life is over. It just means that things are changing, and things will always change. But the one thing that doesn't change is God. God's always by our side saying, hey, look over here. Look at the new opportunity. That reminds me of a story about my rose bushes. I had no faith that these little rose bushes would grow. They came as like little sticks, and we planted them, and sure enough, they are growing beautifully in the front of the house along the gate. And last summer, I remember looking at them and thinking, oh, this is great. And I did not know, but behind me, there was another rose shoot coming up from the ground. And then there was another one. So here I was, always looking at the actual place that I planted the roses, and I failed to see how there were even more growing behind me. And I think that's what we need to remember, that sometimes we get so fixated on what we want or what we think things should be, and we're so focused on that we fail to see what is happening around us, or another way of being, or another rose bush growing that I had no idea was growing. It was amazing. God works like that. God will always surprise us. And even in the winter of life, there is a lot of life left to enjoy, embrace. slowing down and resting are very sacred things that we need to do. And so, from cold, wintry Vermont, I send you many warm blessings, and I send you my prayers for each one of you, my dear viewers. Thank you for being part of Old Stonewall Farm, and thank you for this kind of hodgepodge of an episode where I'm just basically trying to catch up and hopefully clean up the clutter. I don't know where to begin. But I'll begin by stopping all activity and resting in the Lord and saying a prayer first. So until next time, God bless.